Welcome to Badger Tough Inside the Circle. I'm assistant coach Craig Pokorny here with Hall of Fame head coach Alan Pokorny. We're here to talk the week in Bennington Wrestling. We're going to run down 3 duels we had this week and then look forward to a duel and invite out in Lexington and just go from there. Might be a short show, it sounds like, today. By short, it could be like 45 minutes. So we'll see how long that goes. As always, you can email or tweet to us any questions you have on the show, and we can get them answered. If anybody's got any questions, just let us know, and we'll try to get them answered on the show. As always, the show is brought to you by Midwest Designs. Go to midwestdesigns.org. The biggest thing right now is those clear bags, starting to have people get interested with state wrestling coming up. To get a clear bag, we have a design for Bennington Wrestling. If you want something else, just let us know. We got a contact us form on there, so you can let us know if you want to get one of the bags. It's $5 off any of those bags if you get them in January. So get your order now. That's midwestdesigns.org. So general recap of the week with practices, more going over reviewing stuff from the previous competition with duels on Tuesdays and Thursday. Didn't have a lot of new installations to put in.
Yeah, there's not a lot at this point in the season. There's a couple things we may throw in there too yet, but at this point in the season, we got the major stuff in, and it's more fixing, correcting, drilling, getting better at what we need to get better at, and 3 practices this week is kind of a short week of practices, and actually JV had 2 practices, so I don't know if that's a good thing or not for them, having that much competition, not enough practice, but it's kind of the way the schedule works out. And they do need some competition too, and they haven't had a lot, some of those JVs, so it's also good for them to start getting into competition and utilizing what they've learned and also learning and growing from that. And, the next week they'll have an extra day of practice, so that'll help them out. So anyhow, nothing real interesting or exciting about practices this following week. Just boring week of practice, but a short one, I guess.
Decent week. Didn't have to end up going yesterday on our day off.
Yeah, it was kind of one of those things we kept as an option that if things didn't look right during the week, that we might come in for a short one in the morning on Saturday, but I also like to give them a break too once in a while, because when you're going 6 days a week all year long, and even though we had a break around Christmas, still the rest of the season we'll be going 6 days a week, and so it's good to give them at least a day off since things were fine.
Yep.
Yeah, I think our conditioning is, from what I see compared to other teams, we're at or above most teams. There may be some individual situations where somebody's not feeling good that may look like they're out of shape, but it might be just something else bothering them. But overall, as a team, I think our conditioning is at or above everybody else. Technique, obviously you'll never stop learning that and never stop growing there. But where we're at for right now, I thought it was okay to give them that one more day off and give them a whole weekend, and because we're going to hit the rest of the season hard, and there's not going to be a lot of breaks from here on out.
Right. So started off the week, like you said, JV went to Oakland Craig for their JV invite. Anything you want to touch on that?
Yeah, I didn't get to see it, but I talked to Coach Glinski about some of the guys, and I did see the results, and I looked up what was going on, and overall I thought they wrestled well. We didn't have as many places as we'd like to have at it, but some of those guys, a lot of those guys are freshmen with barely a year of experience, and so they're going against some kids with a lot more experience, older kids too. That we got to look at where they're at compared to where they're earlier in the year, and it sounded like overall, we're pleased with their progress. We did have a champion at 170. Hunter Thompson was a champion. He happened to wrestle Tyler Hengley in the semifinals, unfortunately, but Tyler came back and got third place. It'd been nice to have him on this other bracket, so that was good to see those two guys, do real well. Isaac Jacobs, at 126 dominated his way through the bracket, so that's good to see. I think he's getting close to back about 100% of where he should be at as far as his skills and things that earlier in the season when he first came back. You could see a lot of rust and all that, and that's normal. You saw the same thing last year when Logan McDonald came back. He was real rusty, and it takes about 3 to 4 weeks at least to get into true wrestling shape when you're been laying off your technique and everything else. So he's probably back to where he should be. So that was good to see him dominate like that, and we'll see going forward. But all the other guys, several of them got a match away from a medal, and those are deep brackets too, and big brackets, and a wide variety of teams and some good competition. So it was good for them. Good for them to get that experience. They need that.
Yep. So Tuesday, we had Syracuse come to town for the yearly Rumble in the Ring.
Yep.
Traveling trophy, brought the trophy home again, or kept it home.
Yeah. A little history behind that. Syracuse and Bennington, back when we were in the the Capital Conference, we were the top 2 teams the last several years, and we had some really good battles. Then when we were leaving the Capital Conference for the EMC Conference, the head coach from Syracuse and I talked that we really like to keep this going, this rivalry, and so we decided to do a duel together and duel each other every year, and they won a couple of those duels. We had some great battles back and forth. They won a couple of those, and we said, hey, let's spice this up a little bit. Let's make it a trophy duel where the winning team gets to keep the traveling trophy and take it home and for the entire year, and so we added that to it, and since then we haven't lost it. So that's great for us, and we don't want to ever give it away. I kind of feel a little guilty now that to make a big deal about that, because we're dominating that area, but and some of that's because we've grown, and we feel out a little better in our weight classes, and they haven't grown, and they have some quality individuals on their team, but they have 4 opens this year, and that's very, very tough to overcome. So, but as the duel went, when we mentioned that as coaches talked a little bit about it, that it felt more like a loss than a win,
right?
Mostly because, they won 6 out of 10 matches, and that's not a good feeling. We want to win more matches, even in those situations we want to still wrestle well, but you look a little deeper into it. 3 of our very best wrestlers didn't even wrestle. Ended up getting the forfeits. So those are matches that if they're wrestling, there's a high chance of us winning. And they have some good kids, and their good kids were going against our kids that were less experienced again.
Right.
And it's no fault of our kids. I thought the effort was out there, and they tried hard, but sometimes when you just got someone that's been wrestling longer and someone that's skilled, and it's just tough to win. And so that was kind of the case with that duel. It was just kind of a mismatch, and when we did win, we pinned them so fast it felt like we hardly even wrestled a match. Right. So the matches we lost, our kids battled, and it was a long drawn out battle, and we lose, for the most part. And so it seemed like we were always wrestling behind, and that's just how things worked out.
It just felt weird, kind of almost weird, and didn't quite feel like what it was for a win.
Right, but and as far as I mentioned this in the last show, that how long we'll keep doing this, I don't know. This duel, as of right now, we're gonna probably renew that for next year and kind of see how this affects our state duel situation. Because they still do have good quality kids on their team. They have good athletes in the school that they may come back and they may be in one of those cycles where they're down because they've been so good for so many years that sometimes those smaller schools they cycle in and out. But we'll have to see how that plays out down the road, and we'll probably decide in the next couple of years whether we continue or not, and some of it's up to them too,
Right.
whether they want to continue or not. And I would say they probably do, but who knows?
Yep.
So
then on Thursday we had a triangular in the main gym with Logan Magnolia and Takema Herman. I guess I'll go in backwards order. We ended the night with Takema Herman. Felt as far as roster size similar to Syracuse, but the performance definitely felt a lot better against Takema Herman.
Yeah, that might have been more of just a matchup thing again too, where they got some decent kids, but they went against some of our tougher guys too, in certain cases. And because looking at results from the High Plains Invite, where both Syracuse and Takema were at, Takema finished higher than them, so that would indicate they have better individuals. Plus, Takema added a guy on that hadn't wrestled at the High Plains. He's been out for a while, and his first time back against us. And the kid's a state champion contender, might be ranked number 1 now that he's back. But, so that would also add to the help. But on the other hand, we won more matches. I mean, we only lost 2 matches in that duel. And both those kids are very solid kids. 126, Schramm is possibly a state medalist. I haven't looked at where he's ranked or anything like that, but he's very good. And then at 170, that their kids, that's the one that just came back. That's a potential state champ, and the rest we won all the other matches, and so and there's another some more history too behind them also. As why we've been wrestling them, and that's another one that we got to consider down the road. Is this something to continue or not?
Right.
Takema Herman, for anybody that knows anything about history and all that, in wrestling in the state of Nebraska, in Class C is where they're at, and we were Class C for many, many, many years. They're probably the number 1 team in Class C all time. In fact, I think they all have the most team state championships of all Class C teams. And you can go back to the late 70s, through the 80s, through the 90s, and even the early 2000s. I mean, there's 20, 30 years there where they're just dominant. And Bennington and Takema dueled every year. And there was a lot of barn burner duels and a lot of great history between the teams. And really one of the top moments or duels of all time in Bennington history, and if you read Badger Tough book, you'll hear all about it there. But one of the most famous moments in at least the last 30 plus years was against them. In fact, there's a couple different times, but it was a number 1 versus number 1 back in 1990. That's a famous duel. They were Class B at the time. Actually, they were up to B for a little bit. They were number 1 in B. We were number 1 in C, and a classic duel. Probably one of the most famous, at least in the era that I've been around, of any duel. And again, got to read the details in the book. It's pretty cool. So anyhow, a lot of history there, and it's sad to see that direction. We've gone different directions, and so we'll just have to see what goes on there.
Yep. All kind of part of growing as far as school size is things change, fewer Class C teams on our schedule, and just keep moving up, it seems like.
Right, and if you actually look at our schedule, we almost have more A schools than we have B schools,
Right.
and just a couple of C schools. I guess those 2 C schools that
Mhm.
there's a lot of history behind.
Yep.
And sometimes it's tough to let go of history, but it may be something we need to look at down the road.
Yep. At the triangular in the middle, Logan, Magnolia, and Takema went at it. Logan won that one, but to start the night, we had Logan Magnolia in what looked like could be a really close duel, really tough duel. Logan Magnolia is number 10 in Iowa, so they have a tough team. Always really good technique. Makes us have to have good technique as well. You kind of mentioned it to the guys going into it. So started that one off at 182.
Yeah, and just a little history behind this one too. Talking about history on everything, I guess.
History lesson day.
Yeah. Logan Magnolia and us got together in a duel. We had been seeing them. We went out to their dual tournament many years ago, and I liked wrestling them because like you said, they had great technique. They're a well coached team. And even throughout the years, even when some of the greatest scut teams we've seen, I always thought Logan Magnolia was probably, and this is no disrespect to Scud or anything like that, was probably better coached as far as solid technique. You would see even some of their average kids just with solid technique, and they're just technicians, and I really like that about wrestling them. That and one of the things they do emphasize in their school, and their coaches told me this several years ago, is they emphasize duels and winning the dual state championship in Iowa rather than the individual. I mean, they certainly want to win the individual tournament, but the dual state championship, they really focus on that because that's more of a true team atmosphere as far as, everybody getting behind everybody, whereas individual tournament, yes, everybody supports each other, but some guys aren't wrestling anymore and they're beat out, but in the dual championship, everybody's still wrestling.
Yep.
And it's more of a team feel. And I since we've started a state dual tournament, I feel the same thing. I feel, it's more of a team atmosphere, and we certainly want to win both. But anyhow, they focus on duels, so this makes this more of a challenging duel because they're well seasoned. And if you look at the duels they schedule far more duels than they do tournaments, individual tournaments, and they probably get 30 plus duels in a season, and even a lot of the Iowa schools that's kind of what they do, more duels, more dual tournaments, with a few individual tournaments, and so anyhow that makes for a very challenging duel, and their head coach did retire a couple of years ago. Although they still got some of the same assistants, and I don't remember if this head coach was an assistant before or not. He might have been, but anyhow, they're still pretty solid in technique. And watching them, they're real good at hand control underneath, and made it difficult on us trying to finish our moves, our turns and stuff. We eventually got them in many situations, but they made us work for our pins. Anyhow, they're a great challenge going in. Doing the scouting on them and what they had. I felt there were 3 toss-up matches, and based off of what I saw out of them, I thought we would probably lose 2 of those and win 1 of those. So in that case, we were going to lose the duel if that turned out that way. So we needed to figure out how to maximize some points and maybe make some moves if we can. We made a switch at 220 and 285, and that may or may not have helped us. I don't know. I'm thinking it helped a little. But then it came down to there's everything else went kind of as planned, so it came down to those toss-up matches, and we ended up winning all 3 of those.
Yeah, ended up going all the way to the last match.
And ended up going to the last match. Yep, that's so it was a great duel. The the first toss-up match we had, with Robert Greenwood. I was looking at common opponents, and both lost to the same opponent, but the Logan kid had a closer match with him. So there's the one that thinking, okay, it's gonna be a tough one, but based off what happened before, we're probably gonna lose that, but that could go either way. And that's kind of what it did. It went to overtime, and we pulled out the win. Now it didn't end without a little bit of controversy, and their coach getting a warning for misconduct because he was questioning the calls on the official, and there were two situations where, I know they didn't agree with the call of the official. The one that he got the misconduct was the second one, and it might have been because of the first time he just went on, because the second call was a reversal, and it was clearly a reversal in my opinion, and that wasn't worth arguing. If anything, I might have argued the first call and not the second one if I were them. But because you can't just go out and argue every call, or you
You got to pick your battles.
Pretty much, yeah. Because I know there's some people that want to argue every call, but that doesn't do any good.
Nope.
First of all, you become known as a team that just all you do is complain, so they're not going to listen to you. The one thing that we have going for us is I know some of the officials say when we call a table, they're kind of starting to question, because they know that we don't go there unless it's either we really want to find out the answer because we don't know, or it's because the call was probably incorrect. So, but anyhow, and the first situation was a takedown. It was a key takedown in the first period. And kind of thinking through it, it's probably what I would call a 50-50 call. 50% of the officials are going to call it a takedown, 50% are not.
Right.
So that's where I would say that might be one where I might ask for explanation on. The second time was a reversal. It was clearly a reversal that 95% of the officials are going to call that.
Right.
So anyhow, so as a 50-50 call, went in our favor, which is fine. But, when you step through the situation and really think it through, which officials have a split second is all on the mat to make those decisions, you think about it, he made the right call.
Yeah, and actually the head coach for Logan Magnolia brought the official to the table to ask about it later, and when Jim did step him through the process of why he awarded the takedown, and it made a total sense the way he explained it. So,
yeah, and one thing that some fans and even coaches argue calls in those situations is that the other kid had Robert's leg. Just because he's holding on to a leg, and if we can get around and cover those hips, it can be a takedown. And depends on the positioning and what's going on. If you have the hips completely controlled, and that's kind of was the case. The guy had Robert's leg, but Robert had complete control of the hips, and in fact was working trying to get a little tilt out of it. If he would have got a tilt, there'd have been back points, but obviously with the position, he couldn't get the tilt just because the kid had his leg, and you can argue all you want about that call, but there is actually in a little different situation, a picture in the book showing that just because you have a leg doesn't necessarily mean it's a takedown. So when I talk about the book, I'm talking the rule book, and so and that's why it was. And I'm sure their fans weren't happy about it because they see he has his leg, but again, according to if you step through it, by rule, it was probably the correct call. But since he had our leg, that's where I say 50-50 of the officials are going to call it, some aren't.
Well, and the angle that he had was different than really we had, or even the fans on the visitor side. So
sure,
sometimes you can't quite see everything that the officials see, and vice versa.
Right, and just because you have a leg doesn't mean it's not a takedown. I'll give you a great example. In the Takema duel, it's Colby Puck. The kid had his leg and was hanging on, and Colby was working around, and the official gave a call. He gave the takedown, and the kid kept hanging on, and the problem is he hung on a little too long and got his arm trapped.
Yep.
And that actually helped when Colby put him on his back, that helped get the pin because the guy's arm was trapped and
Right.
stuck and he couldn't move. And
Yep.
so, just because you have the leg and it doesn't mean it's not a takedown. That there's a perfect example of a guy holding onto a leg and it's a takedown. And
Actually, I think Colby had that happen in both matches. The first match, he let the arm get out.
yeah, so just because again, controversial call, but I think the call ended up being right in the long run. The more we think about it, the more we step through it, and so that's the way it is. Other toss-up match, I thought in that duel, it was Zach Utek. We didn't have anything other than their record compared to our record. He had a little bit better record than us. Didn't see any common opponents, so that's one we thought, man, we're going to have a tough time winning that. But, I was hoping, and it turned out positive for us. Zach actually won and got the pin, too, so bonus points on top of that. So it made better at the end. That made it, it made it a little bit wider gap. Not a lot, but it was still a tight duel. But anyhow, and the nice thing I like about that match with Zach has been coming on lately, wrestling a lot better, with better intensity, and he's been having better results. So good to see, because earlier in the year he was struggling a little bit, and the intensity wasn't there, and sometimes you can spiral downward rather than keep working and getting better, and I see him getting better, and I'm real happy to see that. As a senior, you want to see him keep getting better and have good things happen as the season progresses. So, and hopefully we'll be working with him on that, keeping that intensity, and he'll have more success as we go forward. So that was a huge turnaround. I mean, that's a 9-point swing if you think about that. In a tight duel like that, that's very critical. So that put us, as we went through the next couple matches, end up the very last match at 170. Logan Burmester out there, and the score is 37-36. So it's the winner of this match is gonna win the duel.
Yep.
And and in scouting too, again, that was I thought a toss-up match. I thought maybe this is the one we could win out of the toss-up matches, just based off records, and it turned out that way, and also because I thought Logan has been wrestling really well lately. He's progressed throughout the season, wrestling better with better technique. Early in the year, his technique that wasn't bad, but it wasn't as good. So he's progressed on his technique, and so I felt good about that, our chances in that match, and and Logan did an excellent job and got a nice solid win for us. And a little nervous at the end when he's letting him come in and do some collar ties. I mean, I know the guy wasn't. It didn't look like he was setting up a headlock, but I was worried about him getting in there and sneaking one in. And but you got to be careful when you're got a big lead like that, and the duel's on the line, and don't let a guy tie up close.
Right.
You still want to be working for scoring. We talked about that too during the week about just because you got a lead doesn't mean you don't want to score. In fact, you need to be looking for scores. Just you don't have to be as risky. Do a better job of setting up and patience, but always still be looking to score somehow, looking to set them up, looking, constantly looking for that and taking advantage of opportunities. So, anyhow, it was great to see Logan win the duel, for our team, and for him, that's a big feather in his cap. It's obviously a team thing that won it, but the pressure comes on that one person at the end.
Yep.
And he handled the pressure, and he went out there and took care of business. So real happy for that, and to get a win over Logan Magnolia. I don't know if people understand how a quality of a win that is. Against a team like Logan Magnolia, and I would rank that right up there with Bellevue East. I mean, Bellevue East might have been a bigger win, bigger fish, but Logan Magnolia is right behind him as far as quality wins for us this year. So real pleased to get that one.
Yep. So went 3-0 on duels this week. So good week.
Yep. Nothing on Saturday. Little break. So just the 3 duels.
Yep. Just a reminder, the show is brought to you by Midwest Designs. Go to midwestdesigns.org and see about getting yourself a clear bag before state. Don't wait till the last second and be left out and have to leave all your stuff at home. This upcoming week, we've got JV at Elkhorn. We got Burke Duel. We got Lexington Invite. So again, not as many practices, I guess, and we'll leave right after practice on Friday. So any other things to touch on with the schedule other than competitions?
No, just to comment a little bit on each. The JV going to Elkhorn. That's again, good experience for those guys. They need the competition too.
Right.
Obviously we need practice, but they need to have that competition to really grow.
Mm-hmm.
So good for them. They get out of school at 1. Well, they get out of school about 1:15. They really got to hustle to the bus because 1:30. And I sent an email out to all parents, so hopefully you got that, and told all the kids on Friday what they need to do. But they need to hustle to the bus because the bus leaves at 1:30 because they got to be back for routes.
Yep.
So it may be a little bit early they're getting to the venue, but it's what we got to work with on the bus schedule and everything. But their weigh-ins are at 3 o'clock. They weigh in there. They're not morning weigh-ins, so the kids got to watch what they're doing on their weights and make sure that, Mondays are always so tough on weights. And fortunately, most JVs don't cut a lot of weight, if at all, and that's, we generally don't want them to do that. But there are a couple of those guys that are, are cutting a lot. Obviously, with those guys that are fighting for varsity spots that, they got to keep their weight down so that they can still wrestle at the varsity. They get 126, and I know that also Hunter Thompson is also looking at getting down, possibly that he needs to stay on his weight plan. So those are the tough ones for those two guys, Isaac and Hunter. But even then, other guys got to manage their weight smartly over the weekend.
Right.
And so that's tough, but they do have 3 o'clock weigh-ins there. They wrestle at 4:30. I usually go there after practice. Probably won't make it this year. It drives me nuts not to be able to get there because I want to see those guys wrestle and work with them in their development. But I got an important school board meeting that you have to get to, and just happens to fall on that night. Then we got Omaha Burke on Thursday. I'm not sure who plans these things, schedule these things. When Burke's one of the toughest they've been in many years, and we add them to our schedule when we're one of the, experience-wise, we're one of the least we've been in 40 years, but actually that was Burke that called us and set that duel up. They called us a couple of years ago. We were full. We didn't have any openings, but we happened to have one this year when they contacted us, and so I said, "Yep, let's add them to it." And the reason is, we want to see quality competition that helps us learn and raise our level, and
it's not always about just this year,
right? And it's not only about this year too. Correct. If you look back at the last 10 years, I would say we would probably win 50% of those duels. And I'm also looking down the road. I think, obviously this year they're fantastic, but, their average teams where they've been at, they're a top 10 team in Class A, but right now they're one of the top teams. I mean, they just won the Metro Conference, and so, they're at the peak of what they have been for the last several years, and so very tough. We did wrestle them already in Grand Island at the Fracas. We're hoping not to match up against somebody we wrestle, but you can't control that as that tournament goes on, they can only control the first round. And that was not a pretty duel.
It's kind of tough.
Very tough. But hopefully our kids learn from that, and kind of what we're looking at is hopefully seeing some improvement from how we wrestled them last time to how we wrestle them this time. So that's kind of what we're looking for. Winning the duel. I mean, obviously you always set the goal of winning the duel, but it's going to take a lot of upsets to do it. Yeah. So one-on-one, we got to look at managing each match and trying to improve from where we're at, and then go from there. And if we win the duel, we do. If we don't, I hope that we see improvements. That's the most important thing. And I think we have a chance of getting a lot of JV matches in there too. I'm hoping, being a Class A school, they should have a lot of JVs available. So hopefully we get a lot of good matches there. And this one's going to be at Burke, so a little travel, but not far.
Probably one of our closest duels.
Yep, really one of our closest duels outside of our home duels.
Yep.
And then Lexington on Saturday, and that is they have a JV tournament and a varsity tournament going at the same time. So a great opportunity for all our guys to get good quality matches and in the same roof, under the same roof, and they're in a different gym than the JV's in a different gym than the varsity, so they are separated, but it's not that far. People can walk back and forth, and generally the JV does start earlier and finish earlier. So, if parents want to stick around a little bit, want to watch a little bit of varsity, I know it's a long drive, but to get back home, but sometimes parents stick around a little bit and watch some of the varsity wrestle, and to me, it's a great tournament for our guys to be able to see different competition in Class B and good competition. There's a lot of good competition Class B schools that Central and Western Nebraska that come to this,
right?
And we just don't see them except for here, and so it's a great opportunity to see that different competition. And it's really benefited us over the last several years since we started going to this, that we actually saw kids there that we end up seeing at state, that if we wouldn't have wrestled them, we wouldn't have known much about them. And we know a little bit more about them, and we're able to compete better at the state level against them.
Right.
And so it's helped us out tremendously, and great for us. Now, as far as traveling, now I'll send an email out to parents so they all know, and I'll talk to the kids, but probably Wednesday night, maybe Tuesday if I get a chance, but probably Wednesday night, I'll have that email out, kind of tell them about the plans and what's going on. But we do need to leave Friday night after practice. We'll practice at the high school, and it also, weather permitting. I'm hearing there's some weather coming in and don't know what it is, and so we may have to make adjustments to it. But let's say that the weather's normal. Friday night we'll run through a quick practice, and then try getting out at 5:30. I mean, we'll be done before that with the practice. Our goal is to be done by 5 with practice. Give them 30 minutes to shower up and be ready. And I would recommend, if possible, and it just depends on parents' work schedules and whatever's going on, that it'd be nice if we could somehow have the kids shower at the school, and if the parents want to bring up their extra stuff for their food and their other clothing that night, by 5:30 or even earlier than that, 5:15, so that we can start loading the bus, because it takes us, with bag checks and everything, it takes us 15-20 minutes to get the bus loaded.
Right.
So if you think 5 o'clock practice getting over with, that means they need to be showered and everything out there in 15 minutes. And that's difficult. Because we want to be on the road and get there at a reasonable time. Because by car it may be 3.5 hours, but by bus is probably closer to 4 hours of a drive, and we want to get there in time to get everybody in the rooms and settled in, so they get to bed at a reasonable time, because it's also a very early morning start. I think we had, if I remember from the past, it's like a 6 a.m. the bus leaves from the hotel. So, we want them in, get a good night's sleep, or at least a reasonable night's sleep. Then it's a very early morning and a long day, but it's been good for us. Even with all that, it's been very good for us, and we've actually wrestled pretty well overall down there. Because the kids have usually done a pretty decent job about getting in, get to bed, and as far as we've seen and known. I remember the first year we went down there, we won the tournament. In fact, we beat Pokorny that year, and that was a huge win for our program there because, just look at what our Pokorny is as a program this year, not only this year, last year, and even for the last 30, 40 years, we're one of the premier programs in the entire state, all class. And so to beat them that first year was great for our program. And kind of upset the host team coach a little bit, kind of kidding in a way on that. But the coach, the Lexington coach at the time, he's now at Grand Island, he after we won it and had the trophy, he says, Coach, don't take this the wrong way, but I was hoping you guys would lose or wouldn't win this tournament. And I said, what? Thanks a lot. I know the kid real well because he used to wrestle you all the time back when you guys were little tykes. But anyhow, his reason, he goes, well, the reason is because we didn't want you coming out thinking this is an easy tournament. And I said, don't worry. I know what's here. We wrestle great, and we've done well there overall. But again, very valuable experience to go there. So anyhow.
Yep. So that's next week. Like always, we give a state duels wildcard update on the show. Sometimes more of an update than other weeks. But as of Friday afternoon, we're sitting at 15th with a 16-9 duel record and 42.76 points. What all that means, top 8 go to state. Right now, the breaking point is just shy of 44 points. So it would take quite a bit with only 2 duels left in the season to make that. But something else that, in looking through everybody's records and how all the other teams are doing throughout the state, we have 25 duels. We mentioned how Logan Magnolia, they schedule a lot of duels, and Iowa schedules a lot of duels. 25 duels right now is the second most in the entire state, all class. Waverly's the only one who has more than us. They have 27 duels. And with a 16-9 record, 16 duel wins is tied for third most wins in Class B, even though we're short of that cutoff right now and probably going to be short of the cutoff. Right now we have the third most wins in Class B and the sixth most wins overall classes. So even sitting shy of the mark to go to state, there's definitely some positives to bring out of those numbers in looking at the state duels and the wild cards for that. So,
well, yeah, when you talk about the positives, we had no grand visions of being a state dual tournament team. We knew it would take some big upsets,
right?
With the experience we had coming in, and really to win even 50% of our matches or duels probably would be a good accomplishment. And these guys have done that. Obviously, they exceeded that, and with only 2 duels left in our season, we're guaranteed to have a winning record. Last year we had a losing record in duels, and one of the things a lot of people coming into this season based off our experience were saying that we were going to have our team was going to be down from last year. So far they've as a dual team they've proved that we're not down from last year. We're better than last year's team, and that's no disrespect to last year's team because most of those guys, a lot of those guys are on this year's team.
Right.
It's just it shows the improvement that our guys have had this year, and the young guys coming in, the freshmen coming in that have contributed, have done an excellent job.
Yes.
And so that's just testament to the kids and all that that's the positive you could take out of it. And you look at some of those teams around us. I mean, you got Raymond Central that's 2 places down. They're 17-5. I mean, they got more wins than us, less losses. I mean, they got a better winning percentage. Alliance is 4-1, and they're below Raymond Central. I mean, 4-1, that's not enough minimum duels, but they'll have enough coming up. I know that.
I think every team except, at the very bottom, maybe Roncalli, I think every team, or even Holdridge, anybody that's in the top 20 plus, 20, 30 are going to end up having enough to meet that minimum criteria. But yeah, they got much better winning percentage for sure. But
right, and again, talking about, I mentioned it earlier. You look at our schedule of who are wrestling. Yeah, we had a couple C teams this past week, but you look up and down our schedule. I mean, I got it right in front of me right now. Let's see, I'll count them out here. The first, how many Class A we have? The first duels, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The first 6 duels were against Class A schools. Then we had a couple Bs in there, and you go down the list, and we probably have more Class A schools than B schools, and so anyhow, just some. I think where we're at based off of our experience coming into the season, I'm real pleased. And I think it shows too that our schedules is good enough the way it is. I don't know if we need to change it, and I'll look more at it too after the season and do some figuring too. But it is looking like we wrestle tough enough competition that we're going to take some losses, but when we have a more experienced team, I think we shouldn't have trouble making the state duels when we deserve it.
Right.
And when we do make the state duels, we're going to be dang tough, because we have a tough schedule. So that generally tough schedules pay off. I know there's people out there talking how they're complaining that some schools may manipulate their schedule to, have 6 easy duels or something like that and get into the state duel tournament. Well, that might be true. I don't know. I don't know if that's possible that you can do that. I mean, you got to get lucky. Problem is, if you don't have a lot of duels, you have one bad duel, or it could be just not that you have a bad duel. The other team might be a team that's down, and if they don't have as good a record, that's going to affect you a lot in your chance of qualifying. I mean, you need to have a good, strong schedule, and you need to win a lot.
Right.
And to get in the state duels.
Yeah, because if you schedule, 6, say you try to manipulate the schedule and you schedule 6 weak teams, you're still not going to make the cutoff point if you go 6-0 or 100-0 against really weak teams. So you can't schedule a bunch of PUDs just to boost your win record.
Yeah, and if you happen to get lucky, things work out for you in those cases, you're just going to go 0-2 at state duels.
Right.
So what did you just accomplish? I mean, if that's your goal is just to make the state duels, that's I'm not a fan of that. I'm a fan of our goals to win the state duels, not to make it, to win it.
Yep.
And so we're going to schedule to win it. That might mean a year or two that we're on the edge. We don't make it because we're on the edge. Because we wrestle a strong schedule. But that would also probably be a team that we'd get in there and go 0-2 or 1-2 and not win any trophies. But our goal is to plan our schedule and to win the state duels, to win the state individual tournament, both.
Right.
And looking at the points too, and strength of schedule, it really shows up. Just take a look at Northwest. They're the 4th team. They're 13-6, and you go winning percentage wise, they shouldn't be up there with anybody. But that's because they went out. Number one, they wrestled some tough competition at the Fracas also, and they also went up to the Clash in Minnesota to a quality tournament. So they took a couple losses, but they're a state duel worthy team. To me, it's going to come down to they're going to be one of the teams going for a state championship, in my opinion. So their strong schedules. And they got the team that deserves it to be at the state duels. their strong schedule, they're still in the state dual running, and in fact, they're only fourth, so they shouldn't have any trouble making it, unless they lose some duels along the way. They shouldn't.
Right.
So anyhow, I guess the thing that comes out of that so far is I think our schedule is good. There's concerns about, and I've heard other coaches talk about this too, that, we go to fracas and get beat up, and we lose some duels. This might hurt our chances at the state dual tournament. So maybe we ought to not schedule this. And it's like, well, this is a great example of, we need to schedule this.
Right.
Because it does two things. It prepares you for it, and when you get beat, you're getting beat by good teams, and as long as you take care of business, most places you're fine.
Yep.
So, anyhow, long explanation there. We're trying to get your money's worth on this show. We're trying to get an hour. It looks like we're going to be close here.
Get it close to the hour. Well,
yeah, that way you get your money's worth out of it.
We don't have any new tweet questions. Do you have any other things you want to address, or any questions any parents have brought up over the past week? Or
no, nothing. I think we covered everything throughout the show. So nothing new here right now, I guess.
Alrighty. Well, in that case, we'll let you all out early. 53 minutes only today.
Longer than I thought it would be for a while. But...
We said we had a short show. It's a little bit short. But tune in next week. We'll recap the JV invite at Elkhorn briefly. We'll touch on the Burke duel, and we'll probably dig in deep to the Lexington invite. And then we'll preview the upcoming Papillion La Vista duel, senior night, parents night, and then EMC conference individual tournament is coming up.
Yeah, season's wrapping up real quick.
It's going by fast. So tune in next week, Sunday, 2 o'clock, same time as always. We'll see you then.